Just quickly waiting for this to boot up properly. I think it should work. Okay, so this is feedback stream in regards to the Operation 5 patch that will drop pretty soon. It was suggested by some of my fans, I guess, that I should do that. And I decided I actually will do that because there's quite a lot of changes coming with that. And the way I decided to do it, I first wanted to have a person with me who's like the counter perspective of what I have, but he doesn't have time right now, so I'm just gonna give you my perspective about it. And considering we will have somebody post questions in the chat, then I will read them and answer them. But who knows? The way I'm gonna do it is I'm just gonna read through the notes that are written on the page from top to bottom, and I'm gonna basically comment on what I think about the change and how it could affect the gameplay in good ways or bad ways. Without further ado, oh yeah, one more thing. My feedback will mainly be based on master difficulty, so the highest difficulty available, unless otherwise mentioned. So let's just get through it. And there might be some things that I will answer a little later or give feedback on a little later, since it is mentioned at the bottom of the of this news post. So one thing at a time, I guess. So first of all, they kind of like just introduce the new stuff. Hey Horizon, how you doing? They're just like kind of like introducing the new stuff. We already know they're separating characters from classes. These are the new icons with the new names. I don't know them all by heart by now. I'll try my best to use the correct word or just use the character and describe it that way. I guess it's still the easier way until we get used to the new names. Here they just write about that, so nothing special. You can just choose whatever class that you want or character that you want. You can find the new names of each and every class right here. I guess there's not much to comment about. I guess I found actually a few things that are kind of weird in a way. Like Brawler for Cole kind of like doesn't really make much sense anymore, since he will more be a fire-based character. You could, I don't know, give him some name that relates to fire, but it doesn't really matter anyways. And I guess I should mention the check exception here. If you choose check, the class or the character, which are both named check, you will automatically be selected to be check. So there is no way you're going to be a Cole with the check stuff and like hijack enemies while you're Cole or something like that. It just that's the only exception. They mentioned that it won't be there. Oh yeah, they also will introduce new skill cards, 16 apparently, new passives. They will all be mentioned below. I'll get through them right after. And these classes will now level up to level 20. You will still only get unlocks until level 16, as of how I've seen it in the dev stream, for the skill cards. And level 20 will unlock a specific new type of card, which is a weapon skin, with the exception once again for check. Maybe there's more exceptions, but they mentioned only the check exception. If you reach level 20 with check, you get the hammer burst and the check skin, so the character skin, which are both this, I think it's called hollow. I think they mentioned that later on. You should get the hollow type skin, which is a new type. It's not like legendary. It's a new one, probably the same as in Gears Tactics. I currently don't remember the name, but it's going to be a new one. So for here, like nothing special. I guess I'll just get through that stuff. Yeah, you can see here the weapons. Scorcher will be added. I guess that's no news either. Cole will be like the main, well, Brawler will be like the main class who can benefit from the Scorcher, but more details on that when we get to the classes and the changes there. Heroic, that's the name, yeah. Heroic Venom weapon set, that's it. And there should be a heroic skin for Jack as well. Yeah, it seems like it's also the rarity type called heroic. It looks like it's red. The new uh, like type in Gears Tactics is also red, but it's called differently. It's not heroic. But I guess that doesn't really matter. I mean, there's no cards you can get on that type. It's really just skins. So yep, there's that stuff. Nothing special here. So let's get to the like super important stuff. The classes. So first off, we have the Infiltrator, which used to be Kate. I guess like the main kind of difference is kind of like going to be this here. They're changing her passive so that you now will do 10 times damage once you get out of your cloak. So I guess once you fire a bullet or whatever it's going to be, if it's going to melee, whatever. This could be a huge difference in a sense of that it might even be completely overpowered, because just think of it a little bit. It probably doesn't make sense you're gonna shoot with the overkill, because the overkill fires like 2 bullets at once, and I'm gonna guess only the first one is going to apply the 10x damage. So you're better off using the Gnasher. And there's also a card that increases the Gnasher damage. So let's just think of it. Let's say you're invisible, or in the ultimate, you have the Gnasher. You run up to let's say a carrier, since that one has the most health. You shoot at it with the Gnasher. You have the bleeding cards on. You will get out of your cloak, but because of the absurd damage, I'm gonna guess the bleeding damage is also going to be much greater, since it's based off your like base damage you're doing there. I guess you will kind of like instantly get back your ultimate again. So this could be pretty broken. If this really works like how I think it could work, if like the bleeding really just recharges your ultimate instantly, this could really break the ultimate of Kate. You'll most likely just constantly be running around with the ultimate. Whenever you're close to be running out of the ultimate, you just find yourself a big target, like a Scion, preferably a boss enemy. You shoot at it, and you should get your ultimate back. I don't know if that's true, still has to be tested, but I have a feeling this could actually work. Then they changed the Laceration card. It now only works when you're within 5 meters. This obviously tunes down the effect of the overkill, which I guess was their intention. This could be a problem. I think the Laceration is the one card that does the additional damage to bleeding enemies. So, and the other card should be I don't know what it's called. Something else, that the one that applies bleeding damage basically. So I think you can still bleed the enemies. Your bleeding power just won't be that high when you're on range basically. I think that's what the difference is going to be. But yet again, if you're coming out of your cloak, you could kinda stack it together with the overkill, but I don't think it's worth it. This change right here is pretty hard to judge if it's like gonna break it too much, or if it's actually a wise choice that they did that. They changed Reaper so that with shotgun kills you get the stim. I think this might be an issue since it looks like bleeding won't count. So you actually have to kill it with the shot itself, not like when they bleed to death. So I guess the Reaper card still is probably not going to be that useful. But yet again, it might work with the bleeding. It's just, you can't really tell. It's hard to say. But my guess is the Reaper card still won't be that useful. In regards to Jane, her current gold card, that one is going to be better now. Yet at the same time, as you can see down here, you actually do have to do executions. So you cannot like melee kill an enemy anymore, like a leech or something, and it will extend your ultimate. You actually have to do executions. And the meat shield is not an execution. They mentioned that in the dev stream. It won't work. So you cannot do the meat shield and swap weapon. You actually have to do the like complete execution for that to work. So I guess this card change is kind of good and bad at the same time. At least it should extend your ultimate much longer. Yet at the same time, it might be an issue, especially if you're facing smaller enemies, or if you're still facing the big ones. Yet again, if you actually do face the big ones, it might be possible to get it back because of the 10x damage that you do. Well, here, Horde, I guess. So Cait is overall just going to rely much more on her ultimate, and therefore I think she will not be that useful with her shotguns anymore. It could be an issue in Horde, if you just play the classic Horde, like not with the new modifiers. Later, I'll talk about that later on. But it's been like the current Horde games, the normal Horde games with the execution rules and that stuff. I think Cait might have some struggle when she's not having her ultimate ready. And as far as I know, there's no card that decreases the cooldown time that you get your ultimate back quicker. So it could be tricky to play Cait if you don't have the ultimate. Alright, next on, we have the Marksman, Foss. Well, there's not much changes here, but the two changes they did have quite a big impact to how you have to play Foss. One is the passive. It will now penetrate through enemies. This could be good. I guess in Horde it's good. It's tricky to say. It doesn't penetrate through shields as of how I understood it, so you'll still have some troubles with the Sentinels if you're not using the ultimate, for instance. You kind of still have to rely on the ultimate to shoot through the shield. So this is really just like on the body, that it goes through the body and maybe hits another enemy that might be behind it. What's tricky to say here is, if you remember when you're using the ultimate, you were sometimes hitting the same target like 3 times with one shot. I'm gonna guess this is not going to apply here. So it really just is one hit, and whenever there's an enemy behind it, it will be another hit. If there's a third enemy behind it, it will still be only one hit per enemy. So it won't really be like a triple hit or something like that, but basically just kept happening when using the ultimate. So this can be good. I think it won't really change much. Where it could change a lot is if you're planning to do time runs in Escape, since doing headshots will give you a lot more time, especially in active reload, instead of just killing the enemy regularly. But that's very detailed, so that's like the only downside that you can have for this, I guess, if you're just basically accidentally killing another enemy without a headshot. But yeah, it all comes down to actually testing it once it is live. The ambush card, we already knew they are going to nerf it. This will have a big issue in Hordes. In Escape, not so much, because usually the enemies don't have too much health there, so they should still be fine to be killed with a few amount of shots. Probably still most of them one shot from the long shot, if you use the 3 damage card, ambush, exploit weakness, and modified long shot. In Horde, however, once double damage kicks in on wave 10, because I think we already had the plus 100% before Operation 4, I knew for a fact that it wasn't enough to one-shot the enemies. So you have to upgrade your damage perks, which is not that much of an issue, but you won't like have them ready at wave 10 already if you're going for a full 50 Horde. So I think this change right here could be a quite big issue if you're a long shot player. It probably won't affect you too much if you're playing the Marksa style. But yeah, this is again just coming down to actually play testing it again. But I feel like it could have a major impact in Horde. Going down to Mac. Mac is now also being changed a lot. Previously, he used to be more like reliable on his ball talk, and in Horde he wasn't really of much use since the shield wasn't really benefiting you or your team too much. It was nice, but there were just way better classes to use, and he still kind of like could only really do much damage if he was using the ball talk. They changed it a lot. They put a lot more weight on his shield or his ultimate. Let's start off with the first change. They kind of like gave an example about this one. This is basically giving you stim or HP when the enemies hit your shield when it's active. And they gave an example, for instance, if you have a Mulcher shooting at the shield, you're kind of like going invulnerable. Your entire team kind of goes invulnerable in a split second because the Mulcher is firing so quickly, or the Stomp, for instance, they're firing so quickly that you should have max stim pretty quickly. And even if you get damaged at the same time, you should regenerate your health extremely quickly. So in cases like where enemies have fast firing guns, automatic guns, then this is probably gonna come in quite handy. I'm just not quite sure if it's really that helpful yet, since Mac himself probably doesn't profit from this since he's like having the shield in front of him. His team could benefit from this if they're not hooked up to the shield, but it actually makes sense if they're hooked up to the shield because of, where is it? There's one more card that they mentioned. This one. Basically, anyone who fires through the shield does 50% more damage. This could be quite huge. I know Mac's shield lasts very long. You can extend it with the gold cards to make it last even longer. And with your additional 50% damage now, which applies also to your teammates, this could actually do quite a difference in Horde. Probably even in Escape, so Mac is most likely going to be quite a viable character now in Horde and Escape. I think more in Escape than in Horde, but I see him like being a new sniper class basically, or even hooked up with other sniper classes, they can become pretty strong. Pair that with a veteran Marcus class, and you're probably gonna have a lot of fun with that. And you can go even further. They will add the bullet chain card, which increases the headshot damage. Oh no, it's general damage even per headshot kill, up to 200%. The only small issue is this 15-second time duration. Like whenever you kill one, the 15 seconds start to kick in, and you can kill up to like 4 enemies total with a headshot, and then it's at max for 200%. But it only lasts through this 15 seconds when the first kill happened. So after these 15 seconds, you would have to do it again. I still think this is a pretty good card, I guess. It's a little bit unfortunate that only you benefit from this one, the others don't. If the others would benefit from it, it might actually be even overpowered, maybe. But if you stack all the damage stuff here together, you could get up to 200% more damage, another 50% by firing just through the shield. And that way, Mac actually becomes extremely powerful. Just give the man a long shot and he will probably one-shot everything down. He'll probably even do massive damage against boss enemy types. Then they also buffed again the Bloody Shot card, which is his Bolt of Bleeding card. That's pretty nice, I guess. It was 65% was okay, but unfortunately some other characters like Fast were just doing straight up more damage, so it wasn't really of much use anymore. But I guess now with 80% more damage, this is still a pretty good card to run in Escape now. It's probably much better now. Same thing for Adrenaline Chunky. You're now doing a little bit more damage while in Venom. I guess Mac now becomes pretty powerful in Escape again. And yeah, they just changed this perk. I don't think that will do much. Well, it might be helpful in Horde, but maybe it was actually better to have the cooldown. It's difficult to say about this one if that really changed a lot. My personal preference would probably be to just have kept the cooldown, but maybe that's already too broken, so we'll see how that goes. Then we have the Tactician. Oh boy. Well, this guy works quite a lot differently now. Um, he can he's like the ultimate support class. I think he's much better than Cockgear now. Well, he kind of was already, but he's now like the one support class that you probably want to have. Um, he has a new card which increases ballistic weapon damage up to 100% per each hit. Ballistic weapons are like, I don't know, 90% of the weapons, kind of, 80 maybe. That's quite a lot. Unfortunately, it doesn't apply for the boom shot, obviously, but you can now, you can override between the weapons now. And what I'm missing about this card is how long is this 100% gonna last? Is it indefinitely? Because if it's indefinitely, then you should totally go with that card. It's just doing twice as much damage once you landed enough hits. If it has a limit, I'm not sure if they've shown it in the dev stream, I can't remember. If they have a limit, I might guess it's also the 15 seconds limit. But if they don't, this card is probably going to be pretty good. Then they added another card, the Corporation, which I think is an okay card. I believe it's not really necessary. It works like the cold shot from Gears of War 5, Gears of War 4. They even mentioned that in the dev stream as well. It's basically almost the same card. It could be really handy since it applies for all your teammates. If you stack this one with the what is it called? Interrogation card, I think. I think it's called Interrogation. The one where you meat shield one and it marks every enemy around you within 30 meters if it's on max. You could stack those cards together, and if you have JD, which I don't know the class name right now, he could just run spotter support, and by just meat shielding one enemy, you probably mark the entire map. JD just pops spotter support, does 30% additional damage, and boom, these guys should probably all be dead, I guess. Unless it somehow misses them. But it's pretty crazy. It could be pretty crazy. It's a little bit tricky to judge. I guess more beneficial in Horde than in Escape. But once again, you will have a lot of different varieties playing Keegan now, since he's so much support based now than he was before. A little bit of a reference, so that you have a little bit like a number or a number of how far the 30 meters are. They mentioned in the dev stream an example with Foundation. Foundation's width of the map is 50 meters. So if you do it in the middle, you cover half of the map, more than half of the map. So it is very likely that you're going to mark enemies almost across the map, or at least the ones that are pretty decently close to you. So it could be good. Once again, has to be tested. Shredder was increased. I'm not gonna say no to that. A little bit more bleeding is always nice. I don't know if he can benefit from more health that much in Horde. I guess it's quite alright. The additional ammo capacity was pretty good in the sense of your boom shot previously, since you could have 6 boom shots instead of just 3. So that was kind of handy there, but I think you don't necessarily need it, because the ammo capacity really was only helpful for the boom shot, and that's it. And you have weapon lockers to work with, so you don't necessarily need more ammo in your boom shot. Then they changed their passive, which is also pretty good, so now everybody can have their ultimates cooled down by just killing the marked target, instead of just you yourself by 5 seconds. Which I think this is also a pretty good change. Once again, extremely support based. And we have the recharge bounty buff to 25 seconds. Small difference. I guess this doesn't really change that much. So overall, Keegan, very, very good support class, can work probably with many different classes pretty well, just because they're all probably doing more damage just because of that one. Probably gonna be pretty interesting to play with Keegan now. Then we have Baird. He gets a new card, the Homebody. which just gives, well, more damage resistance when he's near tabs. I think that one is pointless. I mean, on a map like Overload, you're probably just smashing through the map or through the enemies. So I guess you won't really have much trouble, and you probably don't need that card. But either ways, it's nice to always have some damage resistance opportunities. And eventually he gets the promised perks that should have been in there. So that's nice. Not really that much about Bird, but at least a little something. Then we have Lani, or Blade Master. She's gonna be much stronger with her melee. This could be bad in Escape, but I'm guessing this is really good in Horde. The reason why this could be bad in Escape is because the enemies just die too quickly. So you kind of like don't have your constant health regen, and you yourself might die too quickly. Yet again, this has to be put to the actual test. Maybe you don't need certain cards even, so you can like lower your actual damage output again to how it was before. Let's just go through the changes. So she has the new Blade Dancer card, which increases, like Mac, the damage when you melee or bleed kill enemies. That's basically what I just mentioned. You're going to be much stronger with your melee damage, and it's the same thing with the 15 seconds here. So first kill, the 15 seconds starts counting, and yeah, you'll have to land your 4 kills within it if you want to do that 200% additional damage. This is probably convenient against bosses. She's already extremely strong against bosses if you upgrade her perks in Horde. I think many people don't recognize that, but she's crazy powerful against bosses actually, and this one will just top it off even more. Then we have Energy Surge, which is kind of like Baird. Instead of damage resistance, you just get stim. On smaller maps like Overload, this is nice. On bigger maps, this is probably pointless. Your stim is going to be lost pretty quickly. Even though it recharges really quick, you'll probably lose it too quickly. So I guess this is kind of like map-based, where you want to use it. Or if you even want to use it. There's probably other cards you want to use instead of this one. So maybe this card is not that helpful overall. But at least it gives us a little bit more opportunities of how you want to play Lani. Or the Blade Master class, rather. Then the Brutal Claw, this one was spoiled already. I guess not really much here. I'm not sure if you really want to play with the Claw as Lani. It is nice to have a weapon, but usually she's just better off using melee weapons. Then they just additionally added the melee damage resistance. This was a bug somewhere that it got accidentally removed, that you no longer had the melee damage resistance from that one card. I think, what was it called? Thrill of the Hunt, I think it was called. That's where it got accidentally removed. They basically just kind of like added it back constantly now as a 30% melee damage resistance. This might be handy that you finally survive some melee hits. Yet again, this has to be put to the test once more. And the bleeding got increased to 150%. This could... oh, level 10. That is an error. Should be level 6, I'm pretty sure. This could be a problem. Again, if the enemies die too quickly, especially in Escape, but once again, this has to be put to the test. It could be good or bad. It's a little bit tricky to say. I haven't played Lani or in the future Blade Master too often, so it's a little bit tricky to judge Lani. I've only really seen her in like the real action in the melee only Horde match that we once attempted. Then we have Clayton. This one I was a little bit disappointed. They're reducing the Mulcher damage to 80% instead of 120%. I kind of felt like the 120% was really good. It was like at a value where the Mulcher actually felt powerful and good. Taking 40% away of that damage, I don't know if this was a good idea. He was really good on taking out the annoying bosses like Sentinels. This might be a little bit of a problem now again. You'd also have a little bit harder time to get your ultimate back again. I think this wasn't really a good change. I wouldn't have done that if I were them, but well, I guess we gotta live with that. And once again, they changed Heavy Charger. This card, in my opinion, is completely pointless anyways, and isn't really needed since usually you get your ultimate back quick enough when running a Mulcher. So I kind of feel like this card is pretty pointless and they just nerfed it even more. In my opinion, they should just get rid of the card. Then we have Cole, or Brawler. We knew he's gonna get hit by the Nerf Hammer, and he surely did. He was hit by the Nerf Hammer even more than expected, because they changed the damage dash a little bit more than expected, basically. Well, he's now the fire class, like the real fire class. He does more damage with the Scorcher. I cannot judge it since I don't know the Scorcher damage or the range. But I'm guessing pairing that with a couple fire cards, because there's one card that increases the fire damage in general, it could be pretty good. I guess this will especially become in handy when you try to kill off bosses like a Flock. Yet again, we have not played with the Scorcher in Gears 5 yet, so it's pretty difficult to judge this. Then we have an ammo increase. Not much to talk about there. They reduced the melee damage resistance of Threshold Pro. I guess this is just to prevent to be invulnerable against melee damage when you stack it with Inner Fire, since Inner Fire is also tuned down from 52% to 35%. With the 70% you would still be invulnerable, so they probably changed it to 60%, which should still be enough to hold out melee hits from any enemy, I think. At least one. Then yeah, Inner Fire, it had to be changed. 52% was way too much damage resistance, like flat damage resistance when your ultimate is ready. So I'm kind of glad they did that. And in addition, they also nerf damage dash, which is surprising, because I was thinking they probably wouldn't do that. They would instead buff it. I thought it was supposed to be 55%, which was still a little bit too much, since you could get up to 90% if it would have been 55% together with the Inner Fire. So 40% plus 35 is now 75% damage resistance, which I guess is okay. It kind of balances him a little bit better. Yet again, this has to be like properly tested, whether you're still good just tackling around the enemies, or if you actually have to like revert back to a fire build now. And yeah, that's the card I was talking about before, about the fire damage. They increased that one from 60 to 100%, which I think this one is pretty good. There was another change in regards to fire in general. They should, like, the fire damage itself should kick in much quicker. So I guess this card with this card should probably do quite some change and hopefully benefits Cole enough to play the Scorcher. And we knew about this one. They are going to change the assault rifle damage to just the general damage perk. I think this one is pretty good, since you can now also use your tackle to kill off the enemies quicker. I have to answer this one later. Yeah, so much for Cole, Brawler. I guess we'll see him more likely to be a ranged fire class in the future instead of a melee class now. But we'll see how this turns. Then we have Lizzie, the pilot class. I haven't played Lizzie that much in Operation 4. I know kind of how she worked a little bit. She was more of like a stunning action and extremely reliable on her ultimate. And well, they didn't really change much about it. She now gets a new card to use as Scorcher also on the Silverback. I guess still kind of pointless. You're probably better off with two other weapons, like Mulcher and Salvo, or Tri-Shot and Salvo, or something like that, or you want the Freeze Cannon if you don't have a Clayton or something. I don't think the Scorcher is going to be a good option for your Silverback. I'm gonna guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my first guess. Well, they increased the Enforcer Expert. I think that's damage from the Enforcer. Yeah, damage, increased damage. Well, you're probably not playing a lot with the Enforcer, so that card change won't really do much. And they just renamed the Sisters to the End card, which basically is no change at all. Then you have Jackbot, or Jack. This guy actually, I think, is going to be ridiculously strong now. Because I have played how the developers were like kind of thinking of how Jack should be played. I was playing like that before, and he could already be extremely powerful that way if you knew how to play with him. There's a complete description over in the forums, like what you have to think about if you're doing that sort of play style with Jack, like the aggressive play style, if you want to say so. And I guess I can go into some details here right now because why I think this is good. They also talked about Jack a lot in the dev stream. They wanted to see a 5 Jack only Master Horde 1 to 50. And honestly, I think that is actually going to happen now. It was previously impossible because the flock was too fast in flying away. But the main difference we get here now is this one right here. We finally can do bleeding damage when we hijack enemies. And this bleeding damage, 70% bleeding damage, is, I think, way too much, to be honest. 70% bleeding damage, the enemies are already doing like triple damage whenever you hijack them. Take a claw for instance. This is going to be absurd, or a mulcher sign. It's absolutely going to be insane how you're going to melt through the enemies there. And I think the problem basically is that the ultimate is bugged. Whenever you kill an enemy with the gold card on, it extends the duration while it's running, right? The problem is it doesn't really only extend it slows it down as well. So it takes much longer until it's running off. And when you have it maxed, it takes you roughly like 5 kills to have the ultimate run throughout the entirety of the wave. So you need one enemy, kill roughly 5 enemies, and you should be good to go for the entirety of the wave. With bleeding damage now, you're going to be even stronger. You're you're actually going to really melt the bosses. You could already melt the bosses before if you did that trick with just killing 5 enemies first and then focusing on the boss. But with the bleeding damage, they're now actually going to die real quick. So this is going to be extremely strong for Jack now. He's going to be an absolutely devastating enemy killer, or aggressive killer actually. And besides that, you also get the sacrifice card now. So if your hijacked enemy blows up and your teammates are down, don't worry, they'll probably get back up. 30 meters again, foundation, it's like half the map. So it's very likely they'll all get back up in case they're down. So it's pretty crazy how supportive Jack is now with just these 2 cards, and going with the hijack thingy card. I forgot the name, the gold card. And you can even have one that gives, I think, the hijacked enemy more health. So you're going to be ridiculously strong now with Jack if you hijack enemies. I like it. I just think this card is probably a little bit too much bleeding damage. Should probably nerf that a little bit, maybe down to 30% or something. But we'll see how it actually is. I think this is going to be way too strong. We'll see. And well, they changed the passive. This is actually also pretty good. When you like sap an enemy, they take 50% extra damage if the enemies shoot you. Not you, shoot the enemy you're sapping. So that one can actually also be pretty handy for your teammates. So a little bit supportive abilities here with Jack a little more. Then the HP regen perk they changed to the ultimate cooldown perk. That's good, because you don't really need HP with Jack. You're usually fine, you're invisible. You need to get your ultimate back quicker. That's a good one. And well, that was kind of expected that they're going to nerf the optimizer again. Yet, I do believe you kind of don't even need that anymore. You're usually fine even without an engineer overall, so I guess this card kind of becomes obsolete now since you can just go with the aggressive Jack. Alright, enough Jack. Let's move on. Del. Well, he gets more cards for escape that he can actually use, like that, without just running on 2 scorecards every time. But I guess it won't really change that much. The trackers from his ultimate do bleeding damage, but I mean, that's at max 2 enemies that you can hit. It's kind of like, I don't know, if you have executioner rules on, they won't die, so I don't think that one will change much. I don't think it's worth using the card, to be honest, but maybe it's fine in escape if you try to run Del in escape to like grind up cards or something. And then another one, personal defense, which increases the damage for the enforcer. This is the same like Keegan. I don't know if this is going to be based on a timer or if it's just overall. If it's overall, then you can actually finally use the Enforcer a little bit more in Escape. I just don't know if it's going to be good enough. This one is hard to judge actually. Then the 4 perks again, like Baird, so nothing different. And they just increase the overall custom robotics damage. I think this could be kind of helpful in a little bit. I guess this will have more impact in Escape once again. But yeah, I don't know if you like have the spots for in Horde to actually run that card as well, or if there's like 5 other cards that are better to use. So it's nice to have a buff, definitely. Stacked with the Enforcer, it might be pretty good, but we'll have to put that to the test as well. The Demolitions, JD. I fear that he's going to be overpowered again. He has a lot of changes here as well. He gets a new card that he does more ballistic damage per explosive or bleed kill. This ballistic damage right here could be a problem. It might be broken in the sense of that the ballistic damage basically applies to your Lancer GL, and when you fire the rockets, that it kind of like still counts as ballistic damage, even if you fire the grenades. And if that's the case, 200% more of that, it's going to be absolutely destroying the bosses if that's the case. I mean, JD will probably, or the Demolitions class will probably stay the GL spamming class, more or less. And then, yet again, they even buff his bleeding damage even more. I don't know if this is going to work out as well. I fear there's going to be a lot more GL spamming again in the future Horde maps. Then we have the passive changed. I think this marking thing is stacked with another card somewhere. I think I read something about that, but I'm not quite sure. Basically, just mark more targets and it lasts a little longer. Then launcher capacity was once again changed, or kind of like reverted, I guess. Oh, it's grenades. Carry additional grenades. Well, grenades, I think it is actually grenades now. So if it is grenades, then okay, then he has been nerfed actually. Yet again, we actually have to put this to test. I think I saw the card being a grenade card, so it probably doesn't increase your GL launcher capacity and stuff like that. So this could be the hard nerf, but these 2 cards could compensate for that, maybe. Again, something we have to put to the test. And yeah, it's a grenade satchel, so most likely it really only applies to the grenades, the launcher capacity card. And yeah, with Gambit, a new card, so he becomes like the new, or like the old soldier class that we had in Gears of War 4, so that he basically just can work with grenades a little bit more often than just spamming GLs, basically. And that this boy was changed to inspired, so not much changes there. Then we have our big boy, the veteran Marcus. I liked what they did, but I think they forgot about something. They increased the ultimate duration from 10 seconds to 20 seconds, which is okay, and you can extend it to 40 seconds if you run this card, the previously rifle feedback card. You basically no longer like can extend the duration while it's running, but instead you just have a longer ultimate overall. The problem with this change is related to being able to use duplicates, like having multiple people using the veteran class. Because what you can do now is you can just have 2 Marcus or 2 veteran class types, or maybe you need 3, I don't know yet. And you can sort of alternate between the ultimates. So let's say wave 1, Marcus number 1 or veteran number 1 is going to use the ultimate. Fast can sit to it and use it as well. And when it runs out, you have the other veteran using it on the next time. And the problem is the other Marcus or the other veteran can benefit from that as well. And he basically does damage again, which recharges his ultimate again. And I think you can kind of like, with multiple veteran classes, you can sort of still have your sort of unlimited ultimate running thingy, like how it used to be solo. And this could be a problem. Yet again, this is something we have to put to the test, but I really fear like that could be a problem. Then we have Nomad, previously Paddock. Well, they just changed one perk, so not much. I guess ultimate cooldown didn't really matter that much, so you now do just more damage with precision rifles. I guess that's a good one. So he's a bit more of a sniper in Horde, so I guess that's good. And we have Cat. Well, we have kind of like the pointless classes now, I guess. They didn't even mention Sarah Connor, I just see. Okay. Well, there isn't many changes for these guys. She gets perks now, like the other engineers, and they renamed the legendary card. Same thing applies to email. And for Grace, they also just renamed a bunch of cards. So not many changes there. Cat is probably still going to be pointless. Emil is probably still going to be overruled by Cole in Escape. So I guess not much changes here that we can expect to be in our favor. And Grace or Striker, yeah, just has renamed cards. She's solid in Horde, but she could be better, I guess. And Sarah Connor, well, not any changes there either. She's just going to have renamed her class basically. Okay, so that's it about the classes. Many changes, many different combinations we could do. Probably I'm gonna expect quite some broken setups, especially considering veteran. But we'll see how that goes. So let's just get over the overall PvE changes, which I think could be quite interesting to talk about as well. I'm gonna quickly just read through what they did. I kind of know what they did. Yeah, they introduced daily challenges, and I think this daily challenge option for Horde, I'm gonna get to Escape later. For Horde, I think this is a pretty good idea because I saw they've shown it off in Deathstream as well. You get rewards, which can be different things. It can be skins, it can be class XP, or it can be coins. And the good thing about it is that the rewards probably don't matter much, but it gives a big change to how Horde works because there's going to be completely new modifiers, completely mixed together, and they will basically just completely change the entire Horde. There can be shielded enemies, for instance. They've shown that off, shielded Scions, which are counterproductive against the Veteran class, for instance, since they cannot really shoot the Scions anymore. So you kind of need something else to shoot these Scions off, like someone who can bomb them or sneak up on them or something. So I think these daily challenges could be kind of interesting. I guess the only problem is going to be it's going to, like, after a couple of days you probably have seen enough that you're not really going to do it anymore. But at least we kind of like will have a daily mix of how we want to play Horde, since there's going to be completely new modifiers. And similar thing to Escape, which is right down here. They do the same thing, but the modifiers won't change. So the modifiers are still going to be the same in Escape, like how they used to be on the map, since they're kind of like tied to the map and how the map should be played. They mentioned that in Deathstream as well. Yet I think this is also a good thing that they make daily and featured hives, again with rewards. Because the cool thing is you get additional cards that you can drop with the class you're going to play in the hive. So you constantly have some hives to play where you get additional cards that you probably want for your characters to max out. And I hope, for me at least, that the daily hives will be able to challenge for time, so for the leaderboards, so that we can finally kind of like run the very old hives for time as well. So we kind of have a challenge there as well. Yet again, the rewards is the same: class XP, coins, or any sort of skin that you can drop. It looked like the rewards weren't that big. It was like 300 coins and like 1,000 to 5,000 XP, maybe 10,000 XP if it was a featured hive, like a weekly hive, if you want to say so. But I guess the rewards aren't that huge, but at least they're daily. You have something that you can get every day. There is one very, very big disappointment. They're not going to release any more hives. At least not in Operation 5, because they're planning to basically work on new 5v5 maps. They've written that right here. Going forward, we aren't adding any new hives. And they're planning to just focus on the 5v5 maps for Horde and Versus. It's kind of unfortunate. They were talking about getting community hives in, but the problem is just like play testing through everything that it actually fits to be an official hive. And with the map editor that we have now, we don't have all the possibilities that the developers have. For instance, we cannot spawn a Swarmech, we cannot spawn a Flock. Well, we can spawn a Flock, but we cannot spawn a Matriarch, I think. We cannot spawn a Snatcher, and all the stuff is kind of like pretty limited, unfortunately. So, like, getting community featured hives as official hives is probably not a thing yet, but could maybe become one in the future. I'm hoping for Operation 6 this could be a thing, probably not earlier anyways, but at least I try to like mix it up a little bit so that we have something to work for. And finally, let's just go to the patch notes. I'm just gonna read through everything since I can't remember that. Well, they removed the duplicate usage thingy, restrictions of using duplicates of the same class. Yeah, you can just have every class multiple times now, which could break the meta a little bit. Then they decoupled the classes from the characters. Double base damage of burning, damage over time. Yeah, that's what I mentioned before about the Cole class or the Brawler class. This could benefit him pretty much, or the class pretty much. Same thing goes for like the burning damage when it applies immediately, because before it required like 5 stacks until it reached its full potential of doing burning damage. So I think these changes could be pretty good for Brawler. It could possibly even break the Brawler class, because when I tried it to like be a ranged fire build on Cole, or now Brawler, it was completely pointless. It was not worth it at all. But now with these two changes and with the addition with the Scorcher and like the buffs he gets, I think this could actually be a pretty decent class now. Then we have some changes in Horde. The cost reduction was improved from 10% to 15% for all the engineer classes. This is good. I don't mind that being like higher now, so that you get the fortifications cheaper. So it gives the engineers a little bit more weight. I just don't think this will cover it. I still believe you don't really need an engineer. Then a message when you hold too much power. I didn't really mind anyway, so as long as it doesn't block any vision or anything, that's fine. Then you can now see destroyed fortifications in TACOM. That's good. That's just a bug. I think another bug that was resolved. Another bug. Another bug. Another bug. I didn't even know about this one, because I know you could spawn energy on certain locations on any map, not just Harbor. Another bug that was resolved. Another bug that was resolved. Another bug that was resolved. And another bug that was resolved, so not much to talk about that stuff. Then enemies. Sentinels and Guardians were nerfed. At least their shields were nerfed. I guess this is good, because their shields were kinda annoying. So this is pretty handy that they nerfed it down with the health. Matriarch should freeze faster. That's probably also pretty handy, because the Matriarch is pretty strong. It probably still is pretty strong. I would have liked it if she were frozen a little bit longer, because when I was doing like the Clayton solo attempts, the problem always was I could barely even shoot the Matriarch. So, for instance, if you're playing Clayton, you kind of had to rely on someone else to take off the Matriarch for you. There was a way around that I had in mind, but I could never really test it with flame grenades. Oh yeah, and she dies. She dies quicker now. She receives a quarter more damage than before, so I guess that's kind of fine as well. It kind of nerfs the matriarch a little bit. That's good to know. Then we get a little bit more enemies of for sire types or multi dropshot signs. I guess it's a welcome change. Although I kind of hate sires, I guess this is more or less a welcome one. Then the Fabricator, we got new weapons in the Fabricator. We probably still don't have the flashbangs in the Fabricator that we can buy for whatever reason. And the Fabricator can now finally be destroyed, which finally prevents the cheesy method that you, or hopefully at least, like blocks certain entrances. So this is a good change. I really like this one. This was just another bug fix in Escape. Then they changed the power tabs. They nerfed them a little bit, which I guess is fine, sort of. I kind of liked that they had like up to 120% more health, but probably we won't feel that much of a difference from these tabs. And well, they spawn at wave 1. Question just here is it one tab? I guess it is only one tab for a 1 to 50 wave horde. If it's all 4 tabs, it could be overpowered. Yeah, and that covers my feedback. I guess that's all there is. Overall, I have a little bit mixed feelings about these changes. Basically, I feel like there's not going to be that many changes or challenges, sorry, that will like keep us attracted to the game. There's going to be 5 new maps at least. Overall, it's really difficult to say whether these changes were good. They mentioned they will still work on the balances, since I'm gonna expect a lot of this stuff is going to be pretty broken, as usual. As hard as it sounds, there's a lot of stuff that always breaks when they release a new patch. And I guess, like especially the new cards, they could be broken. But we will have to see how all of this stuff turns out. There might be some new bleeding exploits and stuff like that. But I'm kind of looking forward to this change. At the same time, I'm a little bit feared by it. I guess the biggest disappointment is no more new escape hives. But overall, I mean, there's a lot of changes. They definitely had to do a lot of testing to kind of like make this work. I hope they did the right testings to make this properly work everywhere. And let's see how Operation 5 will change Gears 5, I guess. And that's it. With that, I'm tuning out. I will upload this video to YouTube. So if you have any like questions or something, I'll be happy to answer them there in the comments. See you guys around.